And welcome back for session 2 of day 4 of Community Week. We are so excited for our next presentation, but before we move into that, I want to remind you that the certificate link will be in the chat, so make sure you fill that out for your certificate at the end. Also, make sure that you are sharing all of the great ideas, your screenshots, your GIFs if you're making them, hashtag them with Wakelet Community Week for a chance to win an iPad, swag, and that coveted trip to ISTE 2023. What do you say we get started? We're going to talk about student portfolios, building a better future for your learners, and here we go. Let's see who we have with us today. Wendy Prey and
Hello.
Victor Domingo. Hello. How are you?
Hello. I'm well. How are you?
Good. Where are you joining from?
I am in deep South Texas, the border town of McAllen, Texas. Excited to be here.
We're excited to have you, Wendy. And Victor, where are you joining from?
I'm from the Philippines, and it's past bedtime right now here. So good evening, good day to everyone.
How amazing that we're all in so many different time zones, but coming together with all of those in our chat. Make sure that you pop in the chat where you're tuning in from, and you can also tell us if it's past your bedtime as well. We're excited. I'm just ready for you to get started. So I'm going to hand the stage over to you. And feel free to share your screen, and we'll come back at the end and discuss. So see you soon.
All right. Welcome, everyone. Victor and I are so excited to share with you all how we incorporate student portfolios. And so I'm going to start off our presentation. I am a middle school educator, and I've been in middle school for 11 years. I was in high school for 3 years. And so I'm very familiar with the transition that students go through when they go from middle school, which is 6th, 7th, or 8th grade, to their high school years. So my presentation is how to get started with students in middle school. So step 1, I love the Wakelet Student Ambassador Program, and it is an awesome, stupendous way to get the kiddos started on content, creating content to start their portfolio. So my first advice to you would be get familiar with the Student Ambassador Program. They do have a collection, Student Ambassador Zone. It has all of how to get started and the 6 different tasks. So my first advice to you would be get acquainted with the program. Secondly, make sure that you yourself, because this is one of the things that I love to do, use it as an introduction point with your kiddos, use it as a teaching tool with your kiddos. The first task is curation. So what I did was I collected a lot of things about me, and at the same time was familiar with each and every way to add content into Wakelet collection. So I tried to do text, hyperlinks, do a PDF, put a video, incorporate Flipgrid, because when I taught it to my students, I wanted to make sure that I could give them step-by-step instructions. So my advice, do a curation task collection for yourself and use that as a teaching tool. And in the next screen, you'll see that this is what mine looks like. Oh, the way I did this before I shared it with the kiddos is my district is a Google district. And so a super awesome neat tool was that Wakelet and Google were friends. And so I was able to share the Wakelet Student Ambassador Program through Google Classroom and in the library. Now as a librarian, I have access to all the students on my campus, which is over 800 kiddos. And so I was able to recruit them that way and also use my library ambassadors for Wakelet and to do this Student Ambassador Program. So the Google integration was a lifesaver and just an awesome way to integrate and share all the tasks and instruction that I had for the students. And so this is another tool that I created for the students as well. We're going to share this template with you guys. I created this on Canva. And so what I did was, let's do a timeline. Let me give you a step-by-step on how you're going to do each task, what you're going to learn when you complete each task, how I'm going to evaluate it, when you're going to get feedback, and just encourage the students to talk to you as well as they're creating the content for their first ever portfolio. What I love about the Student Ambassador program for Wakelet is that it is very flexible. It allows the students to choose what they want, and that's their favorite part. My goal is just to provide a structure for them, which Wakelet does for us just such an awesome job of doing that. And so by creating this template, which we're going to share with you, is these are some quick tips and tricks on how you can navigate the program in a most flexible, enjoyable way, but still with some deadlines and time management skills, which students will need to learn as they get older. So there's that. And then the next slide is, this is the collection that I was referring to earlier. This is the one that I created for the students. And I was able to share with them how to incorporate images. One of my favorite tools that I was able to teach them was, how do you vet an image online? How do you properly cite and ascribe credit to images on Google? How do you use the advanced Google settings to access Creative Commons images? And so all of these digital citizenship skills go hand in hand with them creating a digital portfolio. So this is the example that I shared with them, and it has been useful every single time I've launched this program with the students, and it's their strongest first collection and a good first step into the program. And always celebrate your students. That's another of my favorite pieces of advice for you when you're getting started. Celebrate everything that they're doing. Wakelet gives you all the badges. They give you access to request certificates when they're finished. And one of the neat tools is that I am able to incorporate other tech apps into Wakelet. Now with the Canva integration, my head exploded, you guys. I love that. Canva has a classroom option also, similar to Google Classroom, similar to other learning management systems. And so the students are already familiar with Canva in one of the tasks. These particular images they made with Adobe Spark, which Adobe Spark is also an integration in Wakelet. And so these are amazing tools that the students can use to create graphics, expand in their creativity possibilities, go into little bits of marketing, because we're talking to 6th, 7th, and 8th graders here. And the focus is them. Market yourself. You know, how are you a good scholar, athlete? What are some strong points that you have as a person, as a digital citizen? And so I help them along the way by cheering them on. So do that. Blast them all over social media with permission, of course, and celebrate everything that they do. So this is an example of what I've done for my ambassadors who've done the ambassador program. And these are graphics that they incorporate in their portfolio as well. And these are some examples. They incorporate the images, as I mentioned before. I teach them how to incorporate all of the collections that they made for the Wakelet Student Ambassador Program in their first ever portfolio. So when they leave as 8th graders, they have at least 5, 6 things in their portfolio. They have their Wakelet tasks, and then they have any graphics that they made. In some of these, you'll notice that they also create a resume, which is what I use Canva for. I strongly recommend it. They have a lot of templates on resumes, and I have the students evaluate which resume speaks to you most and which one could market you best. And so they use their skills to analyze, and then they tweak and modify to showcase themselves. So that's super neat. And then in the next slide, you'll see, I also, as an extra component to the Wakelet Student Ambassador Program, this is not officially part of their program. This is just something that I wanted to do for my kiddos, is I wanted them to create a Google slide about their Wakelet experience. So for every single task that they created or completed, I wanted them to reflect. You know, what were some challenges that you came across? How did you overcome them? Self-reflection, self-assessment, self-awareness, very good for social emotional learning. And it helps them remember, hey, I couldn't do any educational tech. I only used it for entertainment. And now look what I've done. And now I can build upon that when I transition to high school. And it's over to you, Victor.
Wow, that's so informative and so helpful. I was listening to your presentation. But for my part here, I'll just go through some of the things that we did in our school, our best practices, and I hope we get to share them to the other educators as well. So before I begin, I just like to check, is everyone doing okay? You still have your popcorns with you? So these are bite-sized speedy sessions. So let's go through our presentation real quick here. All right. So I'm also an educator, but really my background is more on sports coaching. I don't know how this pandemic turned me into education technology specialist. I became an ambassador for Wakelet, MIE expert for Microsoft, and so on. But the great thing that I learned about this experience is how to share this with my learners, with the students. So one thing that I was surprised as well during the day one of our Wakelet Community Week, I was surprised when Amy announced that our school was one out of, I guess, seven first wave of Wakelet Showcase schools. So before we go through the Student Ambassador program, which is a very crucial part on how we became a Wakelet Showcase school, these are some things that we've gone through throughout last school year. So the very first session that brought our school into Wakelet was when James visited our school virtually and discussed through our faculty, admin, students, basically how to use Wakelet for teachers, for school, or for personal use. After a few months, I also invited Miss Ba, and I guess this is the game changer. Miss Ba discussed about student portfolios. That's why our topic is so in line with what he mentioned during his visit last October. This was the jump off point where students started to become interested in creating their own portfolio. Just like what Wendy mentioned, they have to market themselves, especially my students are senior high school going to universities, college application. They became so interested into this. So in our school, we are a Microsoft school, and what's best about Wakelet is he's friends with Google. He's also friends with Microsoft Teams. So what I did when I set up our program for the student ambassador, we made sure that this is announced in our student central page, our newsletter, and I created the team so that they can join. I did not add a single student to the program. I want it to be voluntary, whoever has the time. So it's within the school year, they would apply and become part of the Wakelet Ambassador program. And what's nice about Microsoft Teams, you can easily set up each task within the platform. So they won't need to learn the new Wakelet platform. They are used to navigating through MS Teams, so it would be easy for them to see all the things that are needed to be accomplished to become a student ambassador. And you know what? Last part or last task of student ambassador program is for them to create their own profile, market themselves, all the things they've learned from task 1 to task 6. So that's when we came up with student ambassadors who really had their collections and their own profile, which I am inspired by what my students accomplished. This is my student, the first student ambassador in our school, which is Abby. I when I visited her profile, I was shocked by how she used Canva to present the layout, the cover images, and I'm the one who copied her template, her profile. So I also tried ask her how to do this, how to do that. So she explained to me. So we had this exchange of learning. In terms of the content, since I mentioned that Abby is going to apply soon in universities, she made sure that she would create portfolio to talk about herself, her strengths, her CV or her resume, and also her school attainments such as awards. So it's not just written that she's a consistent honor student. So when the university would create a background check on her, it's shown here. It's her collection of all her medals, certificates, and later on maybe we can browse through her profile. So after one student became an ambassador, again, what Wendy mentioned, celebrate your students' accomplishments. From one, it became five, it became eight, so on and so on. You just have to make sure that you notice their accomplishments and you guide them even after the program. So just to browse Abby's collection even deeper, let me just open this. By the way, we'll be sharing also this presentation from Canva, so you can click the links directly there. So this is Abby's work. So she has a very interesting cover photo on top, and she made it consistent with her cover images per collection. So she has here curriculum vitae, school attainments. And what I noticed different about her, since she's a 10th grade in our school, she also included some of her important schoolwork, such as video editing collection, her digital designs, her PowerPoint presentation. But again, she also added her personal touch to get to know her better. She even has her own movie recommendation, book recommendation, and her personal playlist to get to know her better. Now, it's a portfolio within a portfolio. She's my student in our PE class, physical education class. So one of her tasks is to create their own portfolio in my subject, what she did for the past 3 months in our quarter that I'm with them, to showcase if she is really physically active during the pandemic. So she used pictures, Canva posters. She even used applications such as Nike Training Club, Strava app. I don't know if you're familiar with those, but she also included certificates, all of the fun run, virtual runs that she joined. And it's her portfolio becomes more versatile. It's not just about accomplishments. It's all about her school accomplishments, personal accomplishment, and even some for fun. I was surprised that she even has this compilation for her other subject about cooking. So Abby's collection is really complete, should I say. So she has here her videos how to cook. So I'll show her pictures of her finished products here, videos on how to prepare, on the procedures. So I'm just amazed and blown by what she has created here. And I'm sure even when she goes to college, even if she goes to work eventually, she'll be adding and adding more important stuff here in her portfolio. So I'm let me just show you other students as well aside from Abby. So we have here other ambassadors. Let me show you Luisa's collection or her Wakelet profile. So Luisa made a different style, but you get the point, right? They want to make it uniform from the cover images to the top image. But what's inside is also almost the same: accomplishments, portfolios, schoolworks, extras, and of course the Wakelet ambassador tasks that they have completed. So one thing that I've noticed with her collection is that when I clicked on her accomplishment, she did not just include one grade level. She used this as her collection, maybe her own trophy cabinet from, imagine, first grade, second grade, third grade, fourth grade, fifth, until she reached high school. So she collected everything, took pictures of it. So this serves as her virtual trophy cabinet that she can look back to eventually, and she even adds more and more as the year goes by. So these are some of the student portfolios. If you want to check them out, these are included in the presentation here. So I'm very excited, and I'm sure that your students will definitely create their own unique way. So there's no one template, but we'll be happy to share a template just for you to get started. But again, there's no one way of creating your own portfolio. Even my portfolio, I just copied their style. When I mentioned, I asked Abby how to create GIFs or GIFs, how to do this, what should I include. I am more and more learning from my students as they learn from me. So I guess that's about it on my end, just to share portfolios. And what do I have here? So I recommend everyone start with the Wakelet Student Ambassador program if you have that, to teach them how to be familiar and how, of course, digital citizenship. So when they create their public profile, everything's all checked out and they already know how to market themselves. So for schools, I also encourage you to apply to become a Wakelet school and Wakelet showcase school for next wave. So that's about it for student portfolios. I hope you enjoyed what you have watched or listened in today's session with me and Wendy. So if you have any questions, feel free to hit us up in our social media or in Wakelet. Back to
Thank you,
you.
everyone. So great, Victor. My goodness. Those kiddos are on fire. Love that.
Wow.
Credits to
You
Yeah.
guys
credits.
Super.
you guys are incredible. The chat was going crazy. Digital portfolios is such a popular topic right now, and I know everybody was so excited and inspired by both of your shares. I do have a couple of questions, if that's okay, because you
Yes.
do seem to be digital portfolio experts. So one of the questions I have is, how often are you giving your students feedback when you're giving the digital portfolio assignment or the student ambassador tasks? What does the feedback piece look like for each of you, so that we can kind of get an idea of that, especially for those in the chat that are just getting started?
Okay, so I'll start, Victor, if you don't mind. In middle
Yeah.
school, I give the students a week to complete the simpler tasks. And when you get familiar with the student ambassador program, you'll know which ones have more time, which ones demand, can be done in a week. But I give constant feedback. And so I always encourage my students, don't wait until the end of, or don't wait until you think you're finished unless you're comfortable. If you have a question on how to add a link to a video, or let's say you don't want to do a video through Flipgrid, for example, if your district does not do Flipgrid for whatever reason, how can you incorporate a video from your phone? Because I also talk about the Wakelet app, and I say, okay, this is how you do this. And so it's a very fluid, I don't know really how to express, it's just a constant feedback, as far as for me in the library. I know the library ambassadors are with me, they see me every day. But for middle school students who volunteer for the program, it's an open door policy. They reach out to me on Google Classroom, they reach out to me on Remind. That's also another tool that I use for messaging. And so it's just a constant back and forth, and it's a very organic experience because I see the students take direction from me, or they'll tell me, okay, miss, I got it, let me do it. And so it's cool. It's cool that I get to see them on their own terms and take the feedback as it comes. Yeah.
And Victor, how about
Yeah,
you?
with mine it's quite different. So I'll be honest, in our Wakelet Student Ambassador program, it's like a side from the main academic
Mm,
tasks. So in MS Teams, fortunately, we have the assignments tab where I can see who just turned in and I can give them feedback right away and return the assignment to them. But
Yeah.
again, it's not constant checking. I'll have to check it when I have free time and when the students have turned in. It's like a side task for them. But again, when they finished, I made sure that I would give comments in that assignment tab and give back the badges through that site, and then they'll move on to the next task.
So you're each doing it a little bit differently. Wendy, you're
Mhm.
focusing on giving your students those student ambassador tasks as their main content, along with their library tasks as well, I'm assuming. Is that correct?
Yes. So in my school, the library ambassadors have the library as an actual class, and that is a very small group of students. The volunteer students are very similar to Victor's environment. It's apart from what they're doing, it's something that they do as something extra. So, I do have deadlines for when the tasks are due, but I do tell the students, because they're in sixth, seventh, and eighth graders are my heaviest group. I still tell them, this is new. This is new ed tech. This is aside from the studies that you're doing. So just reach out whenever. And because I'm a librarian, I have a little more flexibility to connect with them more frequently.
Sure. And Victor, you're using it as a supplemental piece to the content that they're already learning with you, correct? I
Yeah.
think it's really important to showcase that to those that are new to the Student Ambassador Program or have not, used that with their students yet. I think it's really important to see that it is so flexible and versatile that you can really use that program either way. There is
Right,
a way, not the way, right? But it's
right,
all
right.
working and it's both equally as powerful, as
Hmm.
evidenced by all of you today. Someone in
Yeah.
the chat asked this question, so I'm going to toss it to you to see if you maybe you have some advice. If not, we can just kind of discuss that, the three of us. But how can teachers use this with elementary students? How do you see that working with the lower level learners?
Mm. I like that. I'll jump in, Victor. I
Yeah,
like
go ahead.
that the Google Classroom integration helps the teacher get have control of how often the content is released to the kiddos, but also the Wakelet Student Ambassador Program itself is very malleable. Like you can tailor it to what your kids can do or what you're doing in the classroom with your students. It doesn't have to be to the T. You can use the same skills that the task is supporting to accommodate anything that you're doing with your third graders or within in the elementary students. And I think that having the Google Classroom integration helps facilitate that, and helps the teacher have more control over what happens with the students.
Sure.
Yeah.
I think you're spot on with that. You can take the tasks and really adjust and adapt them for whatever grade level you're teaching. In addition to that, we have the Wakelet Classrooms section now for students under 13, which is a safe, moderated space for students to actually create and build those portfolios. So if you need more information about that, I'll have the Backstage team put a link in the chat or link to information so that you can go back and really start thinking about what Wakelet Classrooms would look like with the portfolio examples that the two of you shared. And then there was one question about how to change email. If your students are over 13, and they've signed up for a Wakelet account and then they're graduating like Victor and Wendy's students are, it should be very easy for them to go into those account settings and change their email and take their things with them. But definitely check out the student accounts. And again, on that same note, if this is something that you want to do on a district level, which we have several districts inquiring about student portfolios, language learning portfolios, please make sure you reach out to me, tisha@wakelet.com, and we can have that discussion and see what that looks like for your district. Do you have any last words or messages for those attendees watching, Wendy or Victor?
Just dive right in. You know, I'm a control person, and so I always want to have everything planned out, but enjoy the journey with your students. I love how Victor touched base on how he was learning along with his kiddos. Like, I want to know how to do those Canva graphics for mine. My portfolio does not look as clean and awesome as some of your ambassadors, Victor. So just dive in with your students, learn with them, enjoy it. It's okay if you don't meet the deadline. That's another thing I love about the program. It's so easily plugged into whatever you're doing. However, if it takes you all school year, it takes you all school year. I mean, just enjoy it. It's a really neat tool, and the kids enjoy it regardless.
Absolutely. And Victor?
And I guess for me, when we started the program, when Miss Bob visited our school, there were 80 who wanted to join the ambassador program. But I'll be honest, not all those 80 stick to the program. So it will happen, but I'm very happy that out of those 80, I found those important Wakelet student ambassadors who finished the program, and eventually I was able to share it not only within our school, but to everyone, to the educators around the world who I'm sure will be also inspired to start in their own schools. So just jump on, just like Wendy said, start the program, guide the students, and you'll be surprised. You'll be the one learning from them as well throughout that journey.
Yes.
Absolutely. That is also my story. Dive in, learn side by side with your students. Wendy and Victor, thank you so much for joining us today. You were incredible with your ideas and your shares, and it has been an honor being your host. So thank you both so much. So next up, we're going to have backstage breakouts coming. So make sure that you have clicked the link for your certificate so that you'll get your certificate in your email, but also go to those networking breakout sessions, connect with other community members and other watchers of Wakelet Community Week. Make sure that you're using hashtag Wakelet Community Week for a chance to win swag, an iPad, or a trip to ISTE 2023. You can enter as many times as you want, and we will see you over on the networking site. See you soon.